The Almost Perfect Podcast.
Welcome to the Almost Perfect Podcast, a celebration of fuck-ups, failures, and falling flat on your face. It's a podcast that believes you can learn from experience, but that experience doesn't have to be your own. Hi, I'm Bob Perfect, and I'm a functional fuck-up. Let's learn from somebody else's mistakes. And today we're going to be learning from Sabelo Mkhabela. Now, Sabelo is a music journalist, and he mainly specializes in hip-hop, and he's, a hip-hop writer for OK Africa at the moment. He's also quite a good photographer, and I highly recommend you go and check out his Instagram page, which I'm going to link in the show notes. Sabelo is one of my favorite writers in the country. He's one of the few music writers I actually read. I know it might be a little bit weird as a music journalist to not read other music journalists, but I do read some, just very few, because I find a lot of people to be quite pretentious, and if they're not pretentious, they just lack knowledge and they lack insight. And Sabelo is the opposite of all of that. He's not pretentious, and he's full of knowledge and full of insight. And so I really appreciate his writing, and I appreciate his takes, and I think he's very important for hip-hop culture and for music culture in South Africa at the moment. I think he's probably one of the most reliable and relevant voices when it comes to hip-hop music in South Africa. So check him out if you haven't before. Go check out his stuff on OK Africa. I really recommend his interview that he did with Tumi, also known nowadays as Stogie T. And also check out his piece that he wrote about Casper biting. I'm a big fan of both of those pieces and quite a few of his other things. He really just knows so much when it comes to hip hop, and he loves hip hop so much. He just loves bars, he loves raps, and that comes across in this podcast. You'll get to know him quite a lot. You'll get to know, how he got into music journalism, his early days, where he's originally from, and all the things that relate to that and how it all got him to where he is today. And also we speak a bit about the future of music journalism. We also just talk a lot about hip hop and rap in South Africa, all the stuff that you would expect to hear about, the AKA and Casper stuff, the Nasty C, A-Reese. We even spoke about the Flex and Reason beef a bit, because when I did this podcast, when I interviewed him, that was going on. So this was last year, I think December, that we did this. And it was out at Kitchener's, which was pretty interesting. We had one of the interruptions, but I've edited those out. So that's it. That's the whole vibe with Sabelo. Other than that, I just want to thank Ra Short for becoming our latest patron on Patreon. That's a new thing I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be shouting out the new patrons. So shout outs to you, Ra. Ra's an old friend from back in the day who used to give me a lot of lifts and is now supporting my broke ass still. So thank you. If you want to get involved with that, the Patreon is a way for you to give back to creators, and also for a way for me to give you more. So if you enjoy this podcast and want to be more involved in it, say you want to suggest guests, or you want to ask guest questions and stuff like that, or you want to ask me questions to be answered on the podcast, then cool, go over to Patreon. It costs $1 a month or $5 a month, and you get different benefits based on that. And also I'll be doing giveaways. I've got sponsors called I've got sponsors, The Unseen Shop, and also Poison City Brewing. And I'm probably going to try to pick up some other stuff as I go along to give away on my Patreon account there. So if you want to give back to the podcast and help me afford to eventually get a producer for this, and to get someone to edit it and to make it way better than it is right now, so that we can one day maybe call it the Perfect Podcast instead of the Almost Perfect Podcast, that'd be pretty dope, and I'll give you stuff back for it. Go check that out. That's patreon.com/almost perfect. You can also support the podcast just by liking us on Facebook, or by just giving us a 5-star rating on iTunes, subscribing wherever you're listening to this, and leaving a comment wherever you see a need to leave a comment. Let people know about it, share it, I really would enjoy that and appreciate that. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for all the support so far, for the patrons that we already have at the moment. I really appreciate it, and just everyone who's been on board with it. The last few episodes have actually done really well, both the Lex Lafoy one and the Mitch Harper one, so it's already been a really good start to the year. I'm super stoked with it. Thank you. And right now, here comes the latest episode of the Almost Perfect Podcast. I was chatting to Lex earlier, Lex Lafoy, and she said she just did a cool photo shoot with you, man.
Yeah, I could show you the photos, but I'll show you later.
But it's what made you want to like work with her, like, because she was saying like it kind of was this rad organic thing. She had her album or her EP that she wanted to release in September, didn't manage to do it, and now because of that, all these rad things have happened. One of which is being this cool photo shoot. She's like, it loves it. Like she's super happy.
Yeah, I can tell. Well, I like Lex. Like I've always loved her, and I liked Honey Base project that she put out. But more than anything else, I'm just trying to really make sure that I have like strong images with my profiles. So I was like, so I highlighted her. I'm the one who highlighted her. I was like, because she was saying that she's dropping a project, and I was like, it would be dope to do a profile of you, because I kind of missed it last year when she dropped the
With
project.
Honey Base, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, yeah, let's do an interview, let's do a shoot, because I've noticed that she's conceptual, she's creative. So I just I didn't even know what I wanted, like in terms of like the images, but she's like really creative. She came up with the whole thing, like the venue, the makeup, it was all on her. So yeah, it was really just a profile and just me wanting to have like strong images. And you know, I'm just trying to take as much photos as I can.
By the way, when did you start photography? Because I mostly know you from your writing, like, because I love reading your stuff.
Thank you so
but
much.
But then, like, I've seen more and more on Twitter and stuff like that. I don't follow you on Insta, and I probably should.
Yeah.
But you've been posting
either.
There we go.
Yeah.
But I see that you post a lot of photos now, and it's become like a bigger focus of your art, like maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just comes with. I don't want to get bored, you know. I think in this climate, you don't want to be a person who just does one thing. But when did I start taking photos? Shit, I don't know, actually.
Has it been a thing you've been doing for a long time?
No, not very, very long. But it could be 2015, 2016. Like,
damn, it's only 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, because 2014, 2015. So it came from... I was just tired of asking a photographer to tag along with me when I had to go to an event. Also, I was just tired of writing about events. It's like, instead of writing, let me just take photos. And also, when I was doing an interview, I would have to get like a photographer to be like, hey, so it's just like, I'm gonna buy myself a camera and I will do that. So I never really thought I would become a photographer. I'm still reluctant to call myself that. But I think this year, I'll tell you what just happened with my photography. So what happened is and then I just started taking photos. Like I bought a 700D or something.
Oh, so you're using SLR?
It was just, like an entry-level camera. And I just started taking photos, and people responded positively to my shit. And you know, I was very lucky. I was working for Liberty Africa, like a company that has just mentors everywhere. And you know, even my peers, they used to take photos. So my friend Andy, and Mkosi, you know her?
I know who she is.
She's a rapper and a photographer, and she does a lot of stuff. So we're hosting this hip-hop show together in Cape Town, and you know, so I was just like learning from her. And there was this girl called Onele and a friend Rafiwa. So basically I just took a camera and I would take a photo, and I was like, it looks ugly, please tell me, how do I make this better? You know, went from what's the on button, like what is this, you know, just auto, and going to an event, taking these shitty photographs, and people are like, where are the photos you took at that event? And
you
like,
don't want to
you know what I mean? It was that, but I was like, you know, that's the process, you have to start there. So yeah, that's just what happened. And
so it was basically out of necessity.
Pretty much, that's what happened. And you know, like now I've had people being like, can you come and we're shooting a video, we need somebody to take BTS images, you know, because also my friend Motion Bailey, he was he shoots videos. So I was just like always there when he was shooting, and I would take these BTS images, and every time we'd share them, people would be like, these are fucking dope, and he would be happy too. So just one project leads to another. And you know, like recently I got approached by WizKid followed me on Twitter and DM'd me. I can show you actually.
because of your photos.
Yeah, so I took photos at this pop-up store like here in Bram, and then I think Trace, or like they put up the images on Twitter and they tagged me, and then he saw that and he followed me and was like, bro, I love your work, we should work. I was like, oh shit. Dude, and he asked for my number.
How does that feel? It's WizKid, man. Like, how does that feel? Like
insane.
when
I'm
you
still
saw
processing it, bro. And so it was like, yeah, he took my number, and it was like, this other dude called me and it was like, yeah, bro, I love your work. You know, I'm actually shooting a video in Bram today. Can you pull through? at 7:30. Time was like 7 p.m. I was like, hell yeah, you know. My battery wasn't even charged, but I was like, I can never say no to this. Yeah, so I found myself on set with him, and I just took these photos, and so it's been crazy. It's been really crazy. Like, it's been crazy. Like, even some artists are like, bruh, I like your images. One day I'll take you on tour. So it's just like a lot of these encouraging things that are happening. Nothing big has really happened yet, but you know.
But that would also be cool for your writing, though, to go on tour and like
You know what
be
I
able to
mean?
document like both sides of the thing. Like,
Exactly. Yeah, and you know, also I'm just realizing that writing is still important, but it's losing value. And
Yeah.
I don't want to be a grumpy old man on some, you know, writing is important. Y'all young niggas must read, whatever, whatever. I'm just like, if people are not reading and people want to look at photos, I'll be able to.
I mean, that's why I've transitioned into this more. I mean, I still
Yeah.
write for Bubblegum Club, but
Yeah.
I've shut down Durban Is Yours now because
Shit.
it just wasn't worth it anymore. Like,
Yeah.
like, and also it was never like a professional project or anything. We never made
shit.
much money. We never. It was always just like, you know, a side project between friends that, you know, did all right. But
Damn,
now,
that was actually dope. I like that website. Can't
I-
believe you shut down.
yeah, but I mean, fuck it. I don't want to be. I never wanted to be the editor of a website. That was never a goal in my life.
Yeah, and it takes a
Like,
lot out of you, eh?
As you know, because you're the hip hop editor for OK Africa,
Yeah.
and how much like is that?
Not really. I'm not an editor. I'm just a writer. And
You're just a
I do
writer.
edit every now and then, but I'm a staff writer. My job title says staff writer.
But
yeah.
you find yourself doing quite a
I
bit more
do.
than that.
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
And what's like how? Okay, firstly, how did you get into journalism? How did you get into music journalism?
It's a story that actually surprises a lot of people. So I studied electrical engineering in UCT.
Oh, snap.
And yeah, it's a long story how I ended up there, but family is involved, and like your maths marks are too good to waste on. Yeah, it was a complicated story, but yeah, I never loved it, man. Like, I've always wanted to do media, and I was on my 3rd year. Like, I was there for 4 years, but I was on my 3rd year, and I was gonna graduate the following year, hopefully. And you know, for me, it just became a thing where I was like, you know what, I don't want to do this engineering bullshit. I hate to dress the way engineers do. You know, I don't want to have a professional life and my real life. You know, I was one of those. You know what I mean. So what happened is, so I've always been into hip hop, like heavy into hip hop. Like, anybody who knows me, like, there was a point in time. I was like, yo, hip hop is frustrating, because I was trying to rap in varsity. I'm gonna stop, and this dude was like, dude, you can never divorce yourself from hip hop. It's pretty much it's your life. And I was like, shit, you're actually right. So what happened is, I was part of the UCT hip hop club.
So you're originally from Cape Town? Or
I'm from Swaziland, but I
snap,
went to
okay.
Cape Town to study. Yeah.
Okay.
So my father's from KZN. Yeah. Long story, complicated.
we
shit.
might get into it. We might not.
Yeah. And then what happened is, so I was part of the UCT hip hop club, and then I found myself becoming the chairperson of that. Like, I didn't even know what I was doing, but you know, I looked cool, and every time I discussed hip hop with people, was like, shit, your insights are so dope. And then a friend of mine was starting like this website. You know, he was studying computer science. His name is Ushaga Zulu. Actually, his name is Ushaga and his surname is Zulu. No bullshit. And then he was starting this website, and he was like, you know, bro, I don't want to work. I want to start my own business. So we're like, oh my gosh, we're going to fuck up the game, and we're going to start this website and make tons of money. But you know how that goes.
Yeah, you do.
you know? So, yeah, that didn't end so well. But me and him actually had a fallout, and out of anger, I was like, I want to prove this dude that I can do this shit. So I was like, you know what, I went wild. I was like, every hip-hop website that I bumped into, I would go on the contact tab, and I highlighted them, and I wanted to write. So I met this dude called S.JR. I'm sure you've seen him on my Twitter.
Yeah, I see him a lot on Twitter.
So actually, that's the guy who gave me my break, if I may.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, he was working for a checker. Like, he still writes every now and then. And then I was like, you know, bro, I would like to write. He was like, bro, bring your stuff through. And you know, I was just doing Q&As. I was afraid of like writing like editorial stuff. So I did that. And then I found myself doing an internship at Liberty Africa, a live magazine. And I interned there for a very, very long time, because that was the time when
Live Mag.
when I dropped out of varsity, and it was tough. It was tough because my parents and my family, my mother was like, you know, you were given a chance to go to varsity and you chose to be a smart ass about it, and you're gonna have to make this work, you know. Yeah.
And well, I mean, yeah, with that like stuff from your mom and that, like, how did that feel like to have her being like, you should have been doing this thing, and instead you're now suffering with this internship? It's hard. And like, what were you feeling in those moments? What were you thinking? Like, were you thinking maybe I should have done engineering, or were you like, I'm going to persevere through this and it's going to be okay?
I can't even remember what I was thinking at the time, but I remember thinking, for me, for some reason, I just thought this is definitely gonna work out. I didn't know how, and you know, my mother wasn't really.
Wasn't she?
It was
wasn't
it
too
was
harsh?
tough love. It was tough love because you know she still gave me money to go and cover bushfire. You know what I mean? So she was like,
So she still
kinda
supported your
Yeah.
dream, even though she wasn't.
But she
entirely
was just
approval.
like, you know, it was just a matter of, because like even my siblings, it was a matter of like, you have a few months of living off us, you know what I mean? Like, you need to make this shit work. And you know, I struggled quite a lot. I don't think I struggled as much as other people do, because I had a roof over my head and I was able to eat. And but yeah, so I ended up getting a job at Liberty. Like, it was a stroke of luck, because the internship was ending in a few weeks, and I was like, a lot of people were getting jobs, but you know, I hadn't started this thing. I wasn't even confident enough to apply for jobs. I think I sent my shit to Hype, no response. Rolling Stone South Africa was still around just before they shut down, and they took like a piece of mine, but just before it could get published, they shut down. So it was looking kind of bleak. And then, but yeah.
So were you going for print magazines mostly? Was that your main goal?
At the time, they were the only ones who could pay.
Who could pay well.
Because I needed money. And so, yeah, and then I started doing that job at Liberty. And it wasn't even like a writing job. It was a content management job. But, you know, every now and then I would write, and my stuff would always just do well. And then it ended up just being like, you should actually be doing this. It was just having like a really, really great manager. And she was like, she ended up giving me like a writing job, you know what I mean? And then also I was like freelancing for OK Africa at the time, and I just sent them my stuff, and for some reason they just responded, and
I know why they responded. Dude, your stuff is solid. Your insights into things are,
thank you so much.
Like, there's a genuine, that's the thing, like when I read your stuff, there's a genuine passion, but there's also, you think about shit, man. Like so much more than a lot of other writers in this country. Like, I don't want this to be a dick sucking fest, but you have become one of the few people who I read. Like, I don't really read like a lot of South African writers as much, because I get disappointed a lot.
Damn.
I mean, when
me too, actually.
Like when you were saying like Harp and Rolling Stone, I was like, I wouldn't really care if my like had bylines there. Like maybe Rolling Stone International, but Rolling Stone South Africa.
I grew up reading
care.
Hype, man. Like Hype was.
But Hype used to be good, and then like the quality. Like there's I like pick up, I still every now and again pick up an issue, and there's so many like actual grammatical errors and stuff, and that's I struggle with. Like that's like if it's going into print, like, but I mean, and you know, they're a real magazine. They've got editors, they've got everything. They're not just like an online site running with like a shoestring budget. But maybe I just saw things once or twice and thought that's how it always is.
Yeah, I mean, I still buy Hype every now and then. I try to still buy it. Don't always read it, but I still buy it, you know, just because, again,
to support.
I grew up reading Hype, man. Like, all the insights that you're saying I have
comes from
because I was reading Hype, because I was, like, growing up in Swaziland, like, you know, I grew up in a rural area. We didn't have much, you know. So I used to just listen to the radio, and I would read Hype, and it really, and you know, it came with the Hype Sessions CD, so really gave me my insights. So, you know, to this day, I would still love to write for Hype. I have like so many ideas in my head.
But you could now, like I mean, can you write for OK Africa and other stuff? I'm sure they don't mind, do they?
Yeah, I mean, I still could. Yeah, like I just think at the moment,
I mean, I'm sure Hype would love to have you.
Listen to you. It's probably gonna happen. Probably still gonna happen. Yeah.
So what got you into hip hop? What was the whole thing? I mean, like, yeah.
Wow, I never know how to answer that question. So I grew up in Kwaito. I think like a lot of black kids my age. Grew up in Kwaito.
Yeah, hip hop wasn't really that cool in South Africa. Well, Southern Africa. Like,
So I grew up on, you know, hip hop every now and then, you know, Tupac, DMX, you'd hear that on
Wu-Tang.
the radio, you know, not so much Wu-Tang, you know. It's actually quite weird, like that in Swaziland, a lot of us grew up on mainstream rap, you know.
Okay.
So Wu-Tang, not so much. But yeah, so it was that, and then, You know, I think there was a time when I got to high school, because I went to a school in town because I was still living in a rural area, and you know, people were listening to Dr. Dre and Eminem, and you know, I knew those names, but it wasn't like I'd never really been into them. So I just got into it that way through people in school, and it just stuck, man. Like,
What was it about it that like you connected with?
So I think it's the same thing as Kwaito for me, and you know, maybe I'm able to define it now. I didn't know back then, but I'm not a fan of soft things. You know, by soft, it's like, you know, R&B. I grew up around R&B, but to this day, I still don't like it. I mean, I do get it, but you know, even like.
That's funny because rap and R&B are adjacent to each other, just so completely different.
But for me, it was like, if a dude is just gonna sing throughout, not for me, you know. So, and you know, the only R&B I like now, it's like, you know, the trap stuff, because I think I like beats, you know, and hip hop and Kwaito, they have that in common. And also, like, you know, I think like now looking at it, also just the spirit behind it, the independence, the subversion, you know what I mean? I think I like that about rap, because, you know, it's like this thing that I always tell Utidi. So I'm like, I hear a lot of people on the internet, like it's a new wave where people are like creating in my own terms, not creating white gaze, whatever. I'm just like, you mean the thing that rap has been doing for a whole, you know,
30
how many
years?
decades, you know what I mean? So I'm just like, that's I think that's what got me into rap. And also, I'm never gonna lie, as a kid, you know, the swearing, and I'm not even gonna lie, I like that, you know. And you know, so I think more than anything else, it was just like the rebellion that comes with hip hop. Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, I get that, because I mean, I grew up on hip hop and punk, basically, like more punk than hip hop. But when I like
very same spirit, I must say.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why, because I mean, where I grew up, like, was a pretty hip hoppy community, but I connected with. Like I would go to the Winston, and I would go to like punk shows and stuff like that. But then I'd come back home and everyone would be listening to, you know, Wu-Tang. Like that's why I brought them up, because for me, that was the shit that like everyone in Mbilo listened to. Like if you don't listen to Wu-Tang, if you don't listen to Dre, like fuck off. Like you're not welcome here.
Yeah, Wu-Tang, I only met Wu-Tang really, really late when I was like exploring rap. But for me, it was just like Eminem, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, you know, 50 when he came.
Yeah, I only got into 50 like later, because I like was like fuck this fuck this thug life shit, blah blah blah. Like I was pretty anti-gangster rap for a while for some reason. Yeah. But I've grown to appreciate it. So I've grown to appreciate all the different forms of rap music.
That's the thing about, which is why I don't like reviewing albums per se, because for me, I feel like it's very subjective, you know. Like,
but that's all it is. It's one person's subjective opinion based on experience.
You know what I mean? So for me, it's just like, I can imagine somebody rolling their eyes just reading a review, because every time I read a review, you know, just like somebody who's anti-gangster rap at that time, you know, they're like, why aren't these dudes making constructive music, blah, blah, blah. And then 5 years later, this person gets to understand gangster rap. Now they're the ones who are telling us that, oh man, gangster rap is A, B, C, and D. And for me, I go through a lot of changes, because there was a time when I was anti-trap. Now I'm just like, oh my gosh, where have you been all my life? Or there was a time when I was, you know what I mean? And now it's like, I used to love boom bap, and I'm just like, make it stop.
It's so boring.
You know what I mean?
like after a while.
So now I would review a boom bap album coming with that. It's boring now, and I don't want to be that person.
But you see, the thing is, I think that's still okay, because writing like that, like a review isn't this thing that's set in stone. It's from that person's opinion, and people get attached to certain writers and stuff. Like throughout history, I mean, like even me growing up, I had my writers who I read, and like I cared about their opinion, because their opinion was often similar to mine. I read reviews of theirs that about stuff that I already liked, and they said similar things. And so in future, I would trust their opinion a little bit, but I would still, you know, have my own opinion about stuff. I think reviews are not for the artist at all. Reviews are for the public. Like reviews are entirely a conversation between the public, saying this is what we think of this music. I don't think an artist should ever read reviews, to be completely honest. How do you feel about that?
Artists reading reviews. Yeah, as I'm telling you, like, for me, actually, I believe that reviews is like a straight review where you're gonna write on the headline that Stogie T, Honey and Pain album review. I think that's dead, man. Like, that's pitchfork stuff. Like, for me, I believe that reviewing an album, and this is what I tell people who want to write for us, and I'm like, don't review it. Tell me what you took from that album.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So something that you can say in a sentence. So something like, and I'm sure you've seen like our headlines are very like conversational, clickbaity, and you know that for me is how we should write online. So you trying to think of something. So you know, I'll just say something like really crazy. So you could say, AKA reconnects with his colored roots on Touch My Blood. I want to read an article that has that headline, but not a person who's gonna be like, I'm critiquing this album and I'm saying it's good.
But if that was like a colored person relating to the TRO stuff and like, you know, stuff like, and going like AKA, you know, like that would have a lot more weight. Like,
yeah, because for me, music writing is music writing for me, and I'm not trying to sound all smart and shit. It's like, because I believe that music doesn't exist in a vacuum. So I think
no art does.
It's always for me relating it to real life, to be like, what is happening here? What influenced this music? You know, so when you listen to a guy like Reese, for example, it's like he raps about bitches a lot. He raps about money a lot. He raps about smoking weed a lot. And I've been to where these dudes spend most of their time, and I was like, this is really their reality. This is really their lives. And
but do you not think their lives might become like that because of the thing that's been shown to them before?
There's also
so
that.
they aspire to it.
There's
and then they
also
live it.
that. There's also, you know, so for me, I think writing that tries to connect the dots makes more sense. You know, it's like, why is AKA doing pop? And you know, kind of like also just tracing it and be like, it's always been there in his music, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that makes more sense. Otherwise, I feel like on the internet where everybody gets albums at pretty much the same time,
you might get them a week sooner, but it's like,
you know what I mean? It's like people are gonna make up their minds about whether it's good or not. I don't think it's a writer's job anymore to tell them whether it's good or not. But it's a writer's job to actually give them context as to be like, you know what I mean?
Bro, you just verbalize like things I've been thinking forever. Because that's the thing. I agree with you. I don't think when I write about something, I'm not going to tell you if it's good or bad. I'm just going to tell you what I feel about it. Like, and I'll give you context. I'll give you information about the artist that you might not know. Because I also write about a lot of artists that don't have anything written about them. That's like my favorite thing to do, is to find people and give them like a little bit of exposure. Like that's why I do it. Like that's why I got into this, was just so that I could promote artists that I saw weren't getting promotion.
Yeah, no, I've noticed that you also gravitate towards the I don't want to say unknown, but you know, I would say left field, or you know, I've noticed that.
Whereas you also like to dig into the actual culture, the bigger culture of what's happening right now on a big scale, as well as you do highlight underground cats as well.
So yeah, for me, man, it's like so this is the thing that I always tell people, like, and it confuses a lot of people, because in hip hop it's either you are for the Nasty C's and the AKAs, or for the shit, I don't even know who's underground anymore. But you know what I mean? I'll say Manelis, because you're from Durban, or and then you're like, man, these commercial dudes or whatever. Or if you're the commercial dude, you know, like I was in an Uber with this other girl, and then started playing a Doomy song, and she was like, nah, stop playing that deep hip hop. I was like, I thought you liked rap. So for me, I just like rap, you know, the whole spectrum, because it's like, and I think there's this thing that Reason said in an interview with The Sobering, where he was like, yeah,
that's a good podcast.
I love that shit.
They're dope. I like them.
Where he was like, I didn't fall in love with an era, I fell in love with hip hop. So for me, it's always been like, I love the boom bap stuff, I still love the trap stuff, you know what I mean? And I think very, very few people are like that. Like even with the writers, but
as a writer, you have to diversify.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So for me, and you know, I think I just appreciate everybody for who they are. That doesn't mean that I love everybody or everything, but you know, I try to appreciate everything for what it is.
And how do rappers feel about you? Do you know, like when they read your work? Do you? Because I mean, you more and more I see interact with people within the industry a lot more. When I'm sure when you started, like with me, like, you know, you're an outsider kind of thing, and you're just a fan and you appreciate. But then you become part of the culture.
Yeah.
Like, have you had anyone give you shirts, or most people like thanks, or do you get thanks?
Not really. And yeah, some people do say thanks. I mean, I became, I don't want to say close, but I talked to Doomy. because I just kept on writing
Dude,
a lot about this shit. You know what I mean?
Dude, that fucking interview.
Oh, you like that shit?
Fuck, dude, that interview and your piece on Casper are two of like my favorite things about you, dude.
Shit,
Like,
thank you so much. So, I don't really try to make friends with artists. Like, I think that affects your objectivity. Also, you know, I just don't try to make friends in general. So those, sometimes I bump into an artist, they're like, oh shit, I liked what you wrote about that. But others, you can tell that they acknowledge that you exist. So a guy like Casper, who I think is just too big to be interacting with a guy like myself, I've written both positive and negative stuff about him, and I think I'm very lucky that both him and AKA, they haven't blocked me and I still get invites to their listening sessions and all that, you know what I mean? So
yeah, but it's the thing is, your work doesn't come from a place of hatred or dislike. There's no maliciousness. When you say something negative about someone, it's from a real place. It's like because that whole Casper article you wrote was essentially about him being a bit of a biter. Yeah, and he is. Like,
exactly.
And I'm not gonna mention on here who I've had conversations with about because they're famous and stuff. But yeah, dude, like these are conversations that people have been having for years, like people in the rap industry. True. And you were the first one to really write it on a platform where people listened. How was the response to that article?
It was actually dope, and obviously you would expect his stands to be like, call you a hater. So there was a lot of that. But there was also like, you know, you actually have a point, or people being like, I've been saying this. Oh, so it was that, you know, and some people, they just read the headline and then they don't read your argument. You know, it was a whole range of responses, but more than anything else, from people who actually really like took time and read, it was good. It was good.
What do you feel about his movement to Kwaito? You grew up as a Kwaito fan.
Yeah. And so when he first came out, Vele, he was like a Kwaito boy, whatever, Pantula.
Yeah,
he was inspired by
my first thing was like Gusheshe with Mulums. I mean? That was the first thing I know of his.
So in all his albums, I kept on expecting him to go back to that.
But instead, he went the more international routes. Yeah.
And you know, he still owned it, you know. But so on paper, that album, Sweet and Short.
Yeah, it's just come out.
I was excited for it, man. You know, when I heard
I haven't heard it yet.
Get 2.0.
Dude, that song is a banger.
So I liked those two songs, but I didn't like the song with Tree. That's terrible. So the album, I don't like it.
Is it?
Yeah.
What is the rest of the album like?
I like the concept behind it, but I think it's weak, man. Like, you know, it's so average. Like, is that song where he does with Frank Casino, where they sample Mamboche, and I'm like, if you're gonna sample something so classical,
one of the best produced songs in the history of
South
African music.
So it's like, so for me it was like, if you're gonna take a TKZ classic, bro, you better do something amazing with it.
And
but for me, it felt like he's just leaning on it being
Kwaito, and it's throwback
and
stuff.
You know, the nostalgia. Yeah. Like, oh shit, he's rapping over Mamboche. So
do you think he's a better not tastemaker, but he can read the culture of the time or what people want? And
you mean why he's still so popular?
Yeah, well, not just that, but like with the stuff that he creates seems to be, he can pick like what people are going to like, but he doesn't necessarily produce the best version of that thing.
I just really think he has loyal fans, and I think, you know, South Africa. South Africans gravitate towards stories instead of the actual.
I mean, that's how AKA and Casper are as big as they are.
You know what I mean? So it was like, man, this young, and that's the narrative that is pushing that. This young black kid came from nothing. I want to fill up the stadium, man. It's been my dream, and you know, I'm doing shit for the culture. And then brands are like jumping onto that because, you know, they want to look like they're supporting these black dreamers. And, you know, also, and I'm not even gonna lie, for me, his story inspires me, you know. But I think in South Africa, especially, you know, like the people listening to hip hop now, because those are not hip hop fans, you have to understand. Yeah. Like, hip hop is just the pop music of the day, and people are listening to it doesn't necessarily mean that they're hip hop fans. So what happens is that these are people, they just like, I'm just so inspired by this guy, like, he's so dope, you know. It's like, so for example, it's like a festival like Abantu, you know, people love the idea of it so much that
The book festival.
they don't even critique it. People don't critique that everybody who goes there is like, oh my gosh, it's the best thing I've ever been to. But a few people are like, actually there was A, B, C, and D that I didn't like. So I think for me, people always take it personally when you're like, oh, Casper's a biter. They're like, man, you're hating on this guy. It's like, because it's like even on the greatest of all time list or the hottest MCs list, people are always like, Casper is like the one, man, because I'm like, yeah, he's making these moves, but the music is not it. You know what I mean? So
that's very much how I felt about him for a long time.
I think it's not him, it's our people. It's our people,
You think people buy into the hype and the story, what's being sold to them, essentially?
Yeah, definitely. And if you look at like South African media, we don't really have that many critics.
No, we don't have many good ones.
I've read a lot of stuff on Casper, and I'm like, wow, you just told us that album is dope. It's not. You know what I mean?
This is the big issue I have with a lot of music writing, is that it does seem to just be kind of ignorant a lot of the time. It does seem to just be people hyping up stuff without being super critical of it.
And for me, I think like with a genre like hip hop, because hip hop is not a thing that you can just get into in a year and get. Like, but these are people, like this is a person, they work for drum, they're arts writer, and hip hop.
And they've been given this album
is the genre now, and they must write about it. And they, it doesn't mean that they really know what they're talking about. Like, I've seen a lot of horrible shit. Like even just some people, like some factual inaccuracies. Like there was a time when people were like, Sizwe Mpofu, oh man, it's the first for a South African hip hop artist to put out a book and an album. Was like, has been done many times. Dumi did that many years ago. Emil YX did that many years ago. They were like, was this crew that Toya Delays put together? They were like the first ever all-female hip hop crew. And so I was like, Godessa is not even the first one.
Yeah.
There was Your Girls in the 80s. But you know what I mean? So I just think I think just our...
But do you think journalists are letting people down then?
They are, but I don't think that is their fault. I think it's also just the media industry not having a lot of money to actually employ people who can do the job.
And I even find, like, even myself, like, I'll be slightly less harsh these days just because of... You don't want to fucking hurt people. You don't want to cause drama.
So you just don't want to be the asshole all the time.
Exactly. That's exactly it. It's
because also, as I said, that nothing exists in a vacuum. Things are the way they are because, like as I said, there are money issues and there's a lot of issues, and also there's just people not caring. Some people just don't care.
Yep.
They're just like, oh, we have an article on Casper. It's gonna do the numbers, but have you read it? Does it make sense? But also the person doesn't even know if it makes sense or not because they don't know about the shit, so which is why for me I just always stick to rap because it's the thing that I would say I really know it. I respect other people's jobs. I would leave the electro stuff to people who know about electro. I would leave rock to people who know about it, and I wish everybody did that. But again,
yeah, I mean, I've gone into I write about a lot of different stuff, but it's also I do just listen to a lot, and I've spent my entire life just literally reading and listening to music. So regardless of genre, I mean, as I said, I grew up on hip hop and punk, but I also would be dancing around my room to Britney Spears, so and as I've gotten older, I've really got into like electronic stuff, especially in South Africa. I think like the production level here is fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like
for me, it's not even a matter of like I only listen to rap. That's not true.
But
I listen to other.
You know what to write about.
It's like it's like when I see women discussing their issues online, and then you just find niggas just being like, I'm just like, but this is not for you to comment, even if you care about it. In this very moment, sit the fuck down, shut the fuck up, and listen. Get schooled. You know what I mean? So it's like, when like even now with the...
Dude, that's why I should sit down, shut the fuck up, and read your work.
It's like even now with the Flex and Reason thing, you're getting a lot of people being like, Flex is so disrespectful. I'm like, it's a diss track.
That's literally the whole entire point.
To be disrespectful. You know what I mean?
What are you expecting? Is he like meant to tickle the guy?
You know what I mean? So I'm just getting a lot of shit.
Like listen to fucking Tupac. I fucked your bitch, motherfucker.
Dude,
opening lines.
You know what I mean?
Like what are you talking about? Disrespect. Like
yeah. So again, I'm just like this is one of the conversations that it would be okay for you to sit it out and just listen to the people who know what the fuck this is. But you know, social media gave everybody a voice, and we comment on everything. I don't understand how people can have an opinion on everything. It's weird. It's fucking weird. Like, I care about gender, women's rights, and all that, but hardly ever comment, because I'm like, I'm just not schooled enough about this subject. I'm just gonna.
It's probably better to just amplify the voices.
You know what I mean? Exactly my point. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of that. I don't even know how we got here, but yeah.
Bro, that's what this podcast is like. It's really just a conversation, and every now and again I'll ask you a question or two.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I mean, we discussed Casper.
Yeah.
What are your feelings on AKA? Because I honestly feel like that guy just grew up watching wrestling and knows how to manipulate people by playing the heel. You know, like he wants to do that a lot. He wants to. I mean, I like his music a lot more than Casper's.
Of course.
I
It's
think
way better.
Yeah, but also I hate his like online persona. But I know I'm meant to hate his online persona.
I don't have that many reservations about AKA at all. Like, for me, I think I'm actually part of the legacy. I'm just too old to be going on about it, but I really like AKA fans since like 24/7 366 mixtape. Like, that's my shit. Alter Ego, Levels, and you know, there was this thing that it did with DJ Fanatic. So I love him. I think, you know, for me, in the mainstream, like in his generation, you know, he's really one of those dudes who I think can rap when he wants to. Like, if you listen to the Touch My Blood album, like the opening joint, I'm like, that is some really, really great rapping, because it's like, you know, he pauses in between, he stretches his line, and, you know, if the bar doesn't fit in the pocket, he has a way of, I think that song
Just putting it in where
I think that the song is incredible. Like, it's actually one of his most impressive, in my opinion. So,
but the entire album, how did you feel about it?
one, it was too long. Had a lot of fillers.
Yeah, that was my biggest issue.
If he had stuck to the 11 song that he always does, I think it would have been tighter, you know. Yeah, like, I don't like that Beyonce song. Not so much because he's dissing Bonang. There's nothing wrong with that. Like,
I mean, it's your personal
relationship. Whatever you want.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't have a problem with that. But then coming to his online persona. Again, I don't agree with everything he says, you know. But I've just really decided to allow people just be, and you know, a lot of times I'm just like, wow, it would have been great if you shut the fuck up there. But it's like,
but the thing is, he's
talk
saying,
your shit,
he's
talk
saying
your
it to
shit, man.
get the retweets. He's saying it to make people riled up. That's why I say, like, I think he is definitely like in that wrestling like like frame of mind, and that meme frame of mind, same way that
Yeah.
Drake does. You know,
Yeah.
like they do things because they know that you
They
are
get a
going to respond.
reaction.
It's not necessarily genuine, but it is a way to constantly be in your consciousness, to constantly have you thinking about him.
Yeah, and there's also I just feel like he's a guy with he has a sense of humor, and he's very egotistical. And I've noticed that, you know, egotistical people, then they'll make everything about themselves.
Yeah.
And
He
you
calls
know,
himself super
also
mega.
for me, just, you know what I mean. Also, just growing up on rap, Tupac. If Tupac was on Twitter, I would basically be like AKA.
Probably.
You know what I mean? Like,
Fuck.
if you've watched that what's that Resurrection documentary, I'm like, wow, you are such a disgusting human being. But I've also grown to appreciate that about rappers, that they don't hide who they are. You know, they don't hide. Sometimes they have like the most problematic sentiments, and I'm like, that is bullshit. But
how
I would rather that than people who actually go online and talk the talk, but they don't walk it.
Because it's at least an honest expression. This is the thing is that I've been struggling with a lot, because I still love rap music, but rap music's super fucking misogynistic, and
course.
you know, there's really awkward fucking lines in some of my favorite songs that
Hell
like
yeah.
I can't sing along to anymore. But when I
Yeah.
was younger, I did relate to it because I did feel similarly to that.
Yeah.
And so there's this big thing of like the responsibility of the artist. Are you responsible to be honest, or are you responsible to how your stuff influences people? What is the importance there? Like, what do you like? But this is obviously going to be different for each individual artist.
Yeah.
You know, like, what do you think? Like, is what I'm saying going to negatively influence people, or is what I'm saying the truth?
I don't think that artists should really be
Worried about the influence.
responsible for all that shit. I don't think so, you know. And a lot of people always disagree with me on this, and I'm just like, you know, man, this is a person, just talk your shit, like, cause I think and this is the thing that I always say to people. I'm like, other than educate, people should be educated, and by educated I don't mean go to school, but I'm just saying that
Read up a little bit.
it should come from a genuine place. So that's why I was saying the reason I don't have an issue with an AKA saying all this bullshit is like that is really who he is, but I have a problem with and you know, this is the thing that I discuss with my girlfriend a lot. I'm like, every time I read somebody's tweet, I'm like, oh, here you are going on about empowerment, but I know you're sleeping with a married man. You know, you're actually, you know what I mean?
Completely hypocritical.
So I'm just saying, yeah.
Rather be honest than a
so
hypocrite.
I appreciate the honesty in rap, you know. And there's a lot of stuff where I'm just like, wow, that's really fucked up. But I'm like, that is who you are, and I hope you grow, and I hope you change. So if you listen to a guy like Nasty C, I'm just like, whoo.
Yeah, this last album
Damn, bro.
was kind of disappointing for me.
No, I actually like that album,
I
but you know,
didn't.
there's like a lot of misogyny. But then again, for me, I think what I liked about rap is that as much as rappers are thoughtful, they're not overthinkers.
Sure.
You know, rappers are just like, I love money, I love bitches. That is what I'm gonna rap about. You know what I mean? And I have a problem with
unless
the
you
person.
Karis one, but yeah.
Well, you know, Karis is a whole different story. I have a problem with people who are like, offline, they like money, they like bitches. But then online, they're like, you know, this is not the life to live. I'm just like, what the fuck? Just shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? So
Just be consistent.
it's tricky for me. It's a tricky one for me. I do cringe a lot when I listen to rap. But then again, I'm just like, I would rather cringe to you being honest than listening to somebody lying to me.
Fair
That's me. Yeah.
I appreciate that a lot.
Sorry, and also it's like there's this piece that I wrote. I can't remember about which rapper, and you know, the editor was like a old white man, I think. And then they were like, why aren't you calling out the misogyny in this? And I was like, I hear you where you're coming from, but then if I'm gonna call this person a misogynist, then I haven't found a way of dealing with misogyny in hip hop, because it's embedded in hip hop. And I'm not saying that is a good thing, but it's like, I can't then be like, Nasty C is a misogynist, because if I'm
Because then you're
doing
going to
that,
do every single rap album.
you know what I mean? So I was like, you can put that line on there. I just, for me, I didn't live it out, not because I don't agree. I mean, I don't see it or I don't hear it. It's just like, I haven't found a way of dealing with misogyny in hip hop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that is such a big fucking thing. And I mean, so many women have written about it, and that's kind of where my thought leaders are with this. But so many women are also like, yeah, it's a part of it, and you know what, we enjoy sometimes.
And they listen,
like,
you know. So there's this piece that a friend of mine shared on. It was on GQ UK or America, I don't know. Where this woman was like, you can't be a feminist and listen to hip hop. And I was like, I've been wanting to have this conversation with other people, because you guys go on the internet and tell us that we're misogynist, but then you're listening to rap, and I'm like, this doesn't add up. You know what I mean? Also, what does it say about me? Does it mean I should stop listening to rap? I'm gonna die if I stop listening to rap.
I mean, you could try find just the more conscious rap, but then you're just gonna be bored to shit.
That boring shit. You know,
I mean, there's some fun conscious stuff, but there's also just
I mean,
too
you know,
much.
you even go to a Kendrick or a J. Cole, they still calling women bitches. They still, you know, it's.
I mean, it's kind of just Lupe on his ace there with the bitch bad,
You know, I don't know, man. Like it's tricky. It's quite tricky. It's a tricky one. I don't have the diction or the skill to deal with misogyny in hip hop.
Why do you like rap beef so much?
I don't like rap beefs. I just love raps.
Okay.
Rap beefs usually come with raps.
So
Well,
do you
in a
find-
perfect world,
And
now they come with tweets.
yeah, but weirdly enough, so this only gonna come out in January, but we just had some Twitter shit
Yeah.
turn into some bars. Like,
That's what I was celebrating, and I know a lot of people would think I'm celebrating whatever,
drama.
whatever. I mean, I don't hate the drama, because also it's just rap shit.
It's
Nobody, none of them. I don't think any of them can actually act like victims, because, in my opinion, both of them were just like being extra. Because you know, even the way Reason approached that, to me, I was like,
So for the
I
people,
don't think that is you should have come at that dude that way. You know what I mean?
So for the people who don't know what we're talking about now, this rapper Flex, he's a younger guy. You said he won the Vuzu. What was the competition he won?
Hustle.
The Vuzu Hustle. He's put out an album and stuff, and then he admitted on Twitter that he paid 9,800 rand to get his song on Metro,
Quite an odd figure.
and it never happened. Like, it just never happened. So he tweeted about it, and Reason Koi tweeted him being like, you just admitted, like, you know, that you
Which
could
everybody had said, right?
Yeah. But now Flex came back and delivered a pretty hectic diss track. Like, there was some pretty
Below the belt type shit, man. Like, so yeah, for me it's I mean, I like, and this is the thing that I always say to people. It's like people are always like, you must listen to rappers with a message. I'm like, I don't care what a rapper is rapping about. For me, it's about the skill,
about the wordplay,
like,
about
you know,
how they deliver.
I'm not even gonna lie. I do appreciate a guy like Stogie T or Kendrick, or a youngster who are gonna really talk about issues that are affecting us. It's beautiful. I love it. But I can never ever dismiss a rapper just because he's rapping about mundane shit. You know, like one of my favorite albums this year is like the Aries Words and Echo project is called Long Lost Letters. Nothing is gonna change your life.
I actually need to listen to that because I got turned off of Aries by that Zimbali song. Just because it's like, I woke up in a new Bugatti. Like,
yeah,
I've heard this song
I
before.
actually heard you saying that on your episode.
With Luansta. Yeah. Like, so I really do need to give him another listen because but that's also my problem is I can just turn off to someone so easily and then because there's so much music out there, so like I'm gonna just go to the next thing.
Yeah, so that album for me is like, nothing is gonna save your life there, nothing is going to change the world, but when you're just listening, music? They're just really great rappers. When you're listening to the flows and just how they're approaching beats, that to me, rather that than a guy who's boring and is talking about, you know, for example, like Season Pofu, that album that he put out, I thought that was trash. I'm like, very, very important things you're talking about, but this is not how you rap, you know what I mean?
Well, I don't think that album's got like played a second time many times.
I don't think anybody has played it twice, except for, who's that guy from that talk radio? Eusebius. Yeah. Wow, he told us that is a masterpiece. I was like, I don't recognize you anymore. That is, nobody in this world can think that is a masterpiece. No way.
Yeah, but I mean, Eusebius has his intellectualism that, you know, he is attracted to clearly.
And, you know, that's a very interesting thing for me because now woke people are coming and telling us that, you know, hip-hop, I'm just like, you don't know how to judge rap. Stick to your lane. Yeah. Just because a dude is going on about land and misogyny, you still have to be a good rapper to earn my respect.
Exactly, you still got to put that in a great way, like especially if you're touching on those subjects.
Yeah.
Then that's where at least Kendrick does shine in that, like he has managed to take. I mean, he turned fucking, you know, alcoholism into a song where everyone got fucked up to it.
It's really funny, yeah, because I feel like people never listened closely to the song because people thought that was a song about getting drunk, but it was actually about growing up around alcohol and just how detrimental it can be, you know what I mean?
And yet it's a Joel song.
You know what I mean? But, you know, so I want that. I want to listen to, which is why I think for me, like, Stogie T is my favorite rapper because it's like, and Reason, because they talk about all that shit, but they still entertain you. You're like, what?
Yeah, Stogie is on another level,
You
though.
just said, you know what I mean? Like, they have like these really, really insane lines, and, you know, I derive pleasure from that. Yeah.
How do you feel about the public putting Aries and Nasty C against each other?
I think it's bullshit, but I've grown to accept that people always put rappers against each other.
Do you think that duality is important, or that like binary essentially? Like, you know, you have the AK Casper, you had Biggie and fucking Tupac. Do you feel like the public wants this rivalry like all the time?
People love
and even Dre and
people love drama.
Drake and Kanye.
People love drama, you know. I'm not gonna lie, I also love drama, but I won't start drama. Like, if it's there, I'm gonna watch, you know. It's like growing up, I used to like watching people fight, you know, but it's not like I would make people fight, but I'm like, y'all fighting, I'm gonna stand and watch. So, you know what I mean? So I think it's unnecessary. But I've realized that it'll never stop, just like you're saying.
But do you think
like
it doesn't help their careers though? Like, isn't that rivalry?
It helps. I mean, it boosted AKA and Casper so much. Like, for me, I feel like Casper wouldn't have become the star that he was
without
if it wasn't
that rivalry.
for the AKA beef, because people then get to choose sides according to like a lot of things, because some people are like, actually a lot of Casper fans are just AKA haters.
Yeah, and also
You
a
know
lot
what
of
I mean?
people relate to Casper for different things other than just his
Yeah.
music. Like you were saying, he's an inspiration and stuff, whereas AKA is obviously seen as having a bit more of a silver spoon in his mouth, seen as being less of a for the people kind of
And
guy.
arrogant, and and I'm like, as I told you, I don't really have any reservations about him being that way. There's this thing that he said, and he was like, this is actually part of a bigger problem. And I think it was an interview with Forbes, I think, when he was on the cover, he said,
Forbes with Forbes,
yeah, crazy, right? When he said, we're always telling black people to never flaunt their successes, and he was like, that comes from slavery. We were taught to be subservient, that you can't be too much. It's like a woman. It's like when a woman becomes overly confident, men feel that she's too much. She's, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I think that's the same thing that's happening to AK. It's like, you're a black dude, man. Black people aren't supposed to be arrogant. Black people are supposed to be humble. And I'm like, that's how you prefer to be. Be humble. It's fine, but don't then project that onto other people. So yeah,
So would you say your like overriding philosophy is that, like, don't project your shit onto other people, do you? Like,
that's me, man. That's me. Which is why, again, I feel like I'm able to listen and appreciate a lot of rappers. Like, I can listen to an Immortal Technique and go all the way and listen to Amigos, because
Well,
for me
same.
it's like,
Like, I'm with you
you
there.
know what I mean? Because it's like, that is just what Immortal Technique stands for, and what makes him great is A, B, C, and D. And Migos, for me, I think they changed the game. They brought back that triplet flow. I mean, if you listen to Versace,
yeah.
there was a time when everybody was rapping. You know what I mean? To this day, people are still rapping like they have hiccups and shit. You know what I mean? And it's actually becoming the standard in rap. Like, you had that Flex diss.
Yep.
When you think of a diss track, you think, like bars and,
Yeah.
But, that's something that, it's like Composure. When you listen to Composure, for me, it was like,
Dude, that song I
that is
love, dude.
that is
Like,
not how diss tracks or traditionally supposed. If you listen to that
I
beat,
love that song, dude.
it's fucking insane. When you listen to that beat, you are like, that's like a club song.
Yep.
But
Actually, how do you feel about that? Because he made a hit out of their beef, whereas Casper's track is so much heavier.
It's horrible.
Like that, like fucking like
Dust to Dust is
it's
horrible.
the cocaine and like he just
Yeah.
spilled tea everywhere. It was just like But whereas-
I didn't have a problem with him spilling the tea again. I just felt like he should have rapped better.
so that's it. Like
He
but
should have rapped, because he was off beat. That was a
but he-
horrible song.
his lyrics were just harsher. That's the whole thing. It was just his,
And I was there for that.
and that was it. But the actual rapping, the
Yeah.
actual song,
That was terrible.
and that was kind of my feelings on it too. And like I feel like AKA long term has won because Composure will be played forever.
Sure, Composure's that joint, man. Like, the fact that it became a hit. Like, it's actually funny that it happened around the same time when Drake put out, was it Back to Back?
Yeah, with
And it actually topped the charts. It was like, this is the first time a diss track is like topping whatever charts they use in the States. And also for me, it was just like pretty interesting, like the parallels between South African hip hop and American rap. Which is why for me, I've heard like some South African hip hop writers or whatever, like, I don't listen to American rap, and I'm like, you can't not listen to American rap.
But the thing is, you do listen to American rap if you listen to South African rap.
That's crazy, right? So I was like, also, I wouldn't have known that Casper was biting if I wasn't listening to that. So,
Yep.
so I think it's very, very important to have like to just expand your horizons. And for me, like, I even listen to stuff that's coming out of Ghana, not just like Sarkodie or whosoever, like, not like the popular dudes. So I know there's this guy called EL from Ghana. I'm like, he's one of the best doing it right now, So I think it's very interesting to just like, if you look at the parallels, and because even like the rivalry in we have Sarkodie and Manifest, and there's this Smallanyana beef going on there, and you have AKA and Casper. Like, even in Afrobeats, you have Wizkid and Davido.
Yeah.
So for me, I think, again, as a writer, Context is very important, and you'll only gain insights if you expand your horizons. You can't listen to one thing.
By the way, how much has working for OK Africa helped you expand your horizons in terms of African stuff? Were you always listening to more hip hop from the rest of Africa?
Always have. So before OK Africa, I was writing for the African hip hop blog, which
oh, cool.
It's
still
offline at the moment
yeah,
for some weird reason.
I remember reading it sometimes back in the day.
So yeah, I mean, so I've always had an interest in stuff that's happening outside of the continent, you know. And I think, you know, meeting those dudes and just really realizing that this continent is bigger than South Africa and Swaziland, where I'm from. And you know, there's this tweet that I put out that people actually crucified me for it, and I had to delete it before it became like a whole mess. And you know, it just said a lot about South Africans for me, especially South African hip hop fans, where I was like, you can never tell me that Nasty C is the best rapper in Africa if you can't name 5 rappers from Tanzania or
no, you're 100% accurate,
because
there.
you can't say something is the best. That best is a comparison, you know,
to everything else.
You know what I mean? So, and people actually thought I was attacking Nasty C. I was like, no, it's one of my favorites. That is not about Nasty C. But again, and people were like, nah, if you don't know about them, then it means they're not the best. I was like, that is so dumb. You didn't just say that. So it was, you know, I was just like, wow, South Africans really see themselves. You know, South Africans are like the Americans of Africa.
Yep.
You know,
yep.
Like actually, I interviewed Mos Def many years ago, 2013, I think.
Oh,
he was like, and you know, I think somebody on social media or something was like, do you guys listen to African music? He was like, you know what? America sees itself. Don't chase America's approval, you know? Yeah. Which is what a lot of South African rappers are doing, but it's like whatever.
And the weirdest thing is that's changing now, because America's looking here, Europe is looking here. Like, we're being looked at, we're having our shit stolen by them.
Hell yeah.
Like, and motherfuckers are still trying to be like them.
It's always been happening. Yeah, it's crazy, right? It's crazy. But also, you know, so this whole thing of like South African rappers trying to be whatever American, it's very layered for me. You know, first of all, if you're a South African artist, you make this song of yours and you go to Metro FM, they're like, it doesn't fit our format. But when you're listening to, I don't listen to radio, I'm assuming, like when I look at the songs that actually play, you're like, who's this? There's this person who was like, you know, on radio, they have rules, they don't really put them out. It's like,
just so going to be 3.5 minutes long,
you know,
can't be longer.
and then
than
they were like, you know,
no
808.
No,
it's not gonna get. It's no. They were like saying, if there's no 808, it's probably not gonna get played.
Oh, okay.
If there's no auto tune, or you know, or if there's no melodies, you know, things like those.
Okay.
And then Solo was like, a lot of artists have taken loans to make these albums, and you have to make it work.
Yeah.
So for some of them, it comes from pressure, but for some of them, like a guy like Nasty C, he just grew up on that. You know what I mean? He really just grew up on that. And
he grew up on like what, Lil Wayne and stuff like that. I think I remember reading his early stuff was.
You know what I mean? There's also that, and also there's a thing that I always say, that the pressure is put too much on hip hop to be un-American. Everything is American.
Yep.
You know, and I'm not sure if you read this piece, but I made an example. I was like, if you look at Afropunk, for example, where people are supposedly unapologetically African, somebody was like, black people at Afropunk, South Africans at Afropunk are gonna look like caricatures of Americans trying to look like African. You know, I mean, if you look at the dashiki, me and my brother used to have dashikis many years ago. People used to laugh at us, and then Schoolboy Q started rocking that shit. Everybody was like, dashiki is African, whatever. So you know what I mean? I was like, it's not just a hip hop thing. And then now everybody's rocking a dashiki because Americans are wearing it. You know, you have all these movements. Like even when people quote black writers, they will quote bell hooks. They will, you know, but the pressure is just always on hip hop. You know, I'm just like, leave rappers the fuck alone. We're doing the same shit you're doing. Just because we're wearing Jordans that are overtly American, and y'all now are on this, you know, even like this whole creating in my own terms, whatever, that comes from America. You know what I mean? So for me, it's just like,
well, I mean, hip hop literally comes from America. Like,
there's also that.
Like, it's the same thing. Like,
if you listen to reggae dudes, they speak with a Jamaican accent and I don't think they hate being African. I don't think they hate being from here. I don't think they even want to move to Jamaica. It's just when you listen to the music, you know, it
You
seeps
feel it.
into your personality. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I'm not saying that it's okay, but I always just tell people that try to look at things again. Going back,
Context.
nothing exists in a vacuum. That's what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? So, you know, you always get people being like, you trying to, I'm just like, you're probably doing the same thing too, but okay, it's fine. Like, I just don't know. It's just always easy to criticize rap. I don't know, because maybe it's looked at as ignorant. Or I don't know what the reasons.
I mean, rap is often seen as ignorant, but I think it actually could also just be because it's black. Like,
There's also that.
like I think a lot of rap music.
Actually,
'cause-
I've never heard people going on about white South Africans and rock.
No,
music.
and guess what? Pretty much all our music sounds fucking American.
It's crazy.
That's why
You know,
I don't
it's so
listen
crazy.
to like that much
You know,
like
it's
of
so
local
crazy
rock and
because
stuff.
Gabi Leroux once said that Abo Reason and them sound American. I was like, you were making rock sounding beats for Mendoza. What do you mean? You sound American. You know what
Exactly.
I mean? It's weird. Yeah. So
No, I mean it's a small criticism that sometimes get leveled at rock bands and stuff, but it's also just become irrelevant now. People are just like, whatever, that's the genre of music.
you know
Just
what I
you're
mean?
making a genre
Yeah,
of music.
That's what
like
it is. That's what it is. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like you know, the originality thing, and you know, it's
you can
like,
still be original though within like sounding American, because if you're rapping in Zulu, it doesn't matter like how Americanized your music might be, it's still going to be completely fucking different.
also for me, you could sound like okay, Malum Koke.
Yeah.
Or you could sound like pro, like a lot of Kasi rappers do, because you know it's like it's an issue for
'Cause then you're just
an
blasting at
Aries
home.
to sound like a Drake, but it's okay to sound like an okay Malum Koket. I'm like, the problem is
Have you found
country,
a lot of kids these days are starting to do that as well though?
like Koket?
Yeah, I've been
Yeah,
finding a lot more music
lot
I'm
of them.
hearing is
And
sounding
you know,
like
for
him.
me, I'm like, that is the same as Reese sounding like Drake. They're just emulating what they're listening to. You know what I mean? So it's like and you know, it's a conversation I had with my friend today. So it was like, also, if you look at a guy like Nas sounds like Rakim, like Cool G Rap. But as
Yeah.
soon as a South African rapper sounds like, as you're saying, it's a genre. We should look at it in terms of genre. You know, I think I cringe, or not even cringe, I just roll my eyes when I listen to South African rappers saying 10th grade. I'm like, bitch, it's grade 10.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's okay for you to sound whatever, but you know, say things the way we say them here.
Exactly.
'Cause
No,
nobody in South Africa in everyday conversation been like, my child is going to 10th grade, it's grade 10.
see, to me, that's the thing, is personalize it, man. Like, just, you can sound like your influences and that. You can,
Yeah.
you openly, that's fine.
Yeah.
But personalize it. Talk about
course.
your hood. Talk about
Yeah.
your experiences.
Yeah.
Talk about, make it unique in that way so that it can't be replicated.
Hell yeah.
Even if the sound might be a little bit similar to something you've heard
Yeah.
before, it's
Yeah.
still a unique experience.
Yeah. So I mean, if you look at guys like Muzi, for example,
Yeah,
or
fuck.
Java, you
Yes,
know,
Java released something today.
you
Oh,
can
I'm dating this, but
you
yeah.
can always tell that, oh, this person is influenced by this. Like, I've hung out with just Java for like half a day, and I was listening to Future and Young Thug, and I was like, now I actually get your influences, but you know, he made it his, and
Yeah, I mean, you
know,
can tell Afrovision, like, Muzi been listening to some K-Tronada, some Fluence, and that sort of stuff.
You know,
but it's
he
still a
made it
completely
his, you know
unique
what I
album.
mean? Yeah. So yeah, it's I'm very lenient when it comes to that, because you know, I understand where it comes from. Also, just like growing up as a hip hop head, it was tough, man. It was tough because, you know, with our baggy pants, sagging them, and you know what people called us names, and we were like, I'm not even trying to be, man. I just love this lifestyle. You know what I mean?
So yeah, that's a weird thing. So I know about this, but I never experienced it. But
Shit.
the Kwaito hip hop thing in like South Africa and Southern Africa was kind of a big thing. Like hip
crazy.
hop kids got given a lot of shit.
It was crazy.
Like-
it was crazy. It's actually funny. Like, if you look at Mzegezege, for example, he was very anti hip hop.
Yeah.
You know, but now he's the one. He ended up signing a guy like Pro, and it was weird, man. Like, it's always weird. And
But do you think Kwaito needed that to cement its identity as something different?
like, needed to be South African.
Well, no, to be like anti-hip hop almost, so that it was
No.
like, we're not hip hop, we
No,
are Kwaito.
no. I just believe that's really what they believed in. It was really just a stance. Like, it didn't make sense to them that we're here, we're Pantsula, we have All Stars and DKs, and you guys are coming here with Timberlands, and I think it just came from wanting to be all originally African, but they didn't realize that by so doing they're oppressing other people, and that happens to this day, you know, where a person is like, just because they are doing A, B, and C better, you must not do D, E, and F. And I'm like, you know, but you also have your areas of, you know, just like the examples I made about Americanization in almost everything that we do. You know, like even if you look at Kwaito, there was a lot of hip hop influence.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And
see, that's what made it weird to me, was because Kwaito to me isn't like necessarily an extension of hip hop, but it is. There's a lot of hip hop in it.
Took a lot of
there's when I listen to Kwaito, I hear a lot of hip hop.
Definitely,
So-
there was a lot of that. Like also, like I feel like, especially when it's in like the 2000s, when you listen to guys like Scheme, even when you look at how they were dressing, it was just like, wow, you guys are really just hip hop heads. And there's this documentary that I watched that was done by Rashid K. This person was like, we kind of ended up having to do Kwaito because hip hop was just not working out. And you don't want to waste your life. You don't want to waste your life. You know what I mean?
I mean, there's many musicians throughout history that have shifted their sounds because they weren't making it.
Yeah. And you know, I don't really have that much of a problem with that, man. Like, but I just really feel like if you're gonna get into something and want to be an authority, educate yourself in it. You know what I mean? So if you were like one of those Kwaito dudes and now you want to tell us about hip hop, you got to do the work that we did. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't have a problem with people switching styles or.
Fair enough, man. I think we've got so much here.
Yeah.
And I think the main thing people can take
Definitely.
away from you is, you know, just do your own thing. Like,
Pretty much.
like it don't,
much,
don't be
Yeah.
bothered too much about anyone else.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of overthinkers in this life, and you know, and again, this
Although
is
it's
also
ironic
just-
for a writer who clearly overthinks.
No, I'm not an overthinker.
Really?
I would say I'm an insightful thinker. Because you know, for me, overthinking.
It's just I know your stuff. I know your work.
Yeah.
Like I know, like just by reading it, I know how much you've thought about what's going on there.
Like, but to be, let me just just closing. I don't think about it as much as you think I do.
Really?
For me, it
It's just
comes.
natural.
It comes from. Again, it just comes from knowing something so much, you know. And I'm not saying I'm a hip hop expert, but I really, really know about rap. It just comes from knowing it. And so, for example, it's like when a Casper makes a song like Doc Shebeleza, I'm like, yeah. A$AP Ferg didn't even start that shit because Outkast had a song called Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
There's a lot of things.
Shit,
Or, you know what I mean?
actually, I didn't think about
And when
that.
people are like going on about 808s, I'm like, Africa Bambata was using 808s in the fucking 80s. So for me, I'm just like, I think more than, I'm not an overthinker, I'm just not for groupthink.
Fair enough.
So when people are like, you know, like I think you either, man, I hate these trap dudes because they are whatever, or I like this boom bap shit because for me, I'm just like, I'm not gonna go with what you are.
yeah, you can just be like, I like some of this boom bap, I like some of this trap.
You know what I
that
mean?
trap sucks. That boom bap
Yeah.
sucks. Yeah.
So more than anything else, the way I think about my work, it just comes from my insights. That's all there is to it. Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your work, man, and thanks for everything you've
Thank you, bro.
contributed
Thank
to.
you for making me feel important.
Nah, dude, like I genuinely feel like what you're doing and your writing is super important at the
Thank you so
moment. I
much.
think you've documented a lot of important stuff. I think your Toomey interview
Shit.
is something that needed to happen. Like no one's gotten that interview like quite like that. No one's like
Shit.
no one's written as well about him as you have. Either.
Thank you so
like,
much, bro.
So I just keep doing it, man. Keep at
Thank
it
you.
and
Thank
keep
you.
contributing
Thank
to the
you.
culture.
Yeah. Have so much respect for you as well. Thanks.
Thanks, Obi.
Sure.